Mary had a little
We believe that all men are created
equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe it.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
A stark reversal in an historic case over access to an abortion in the post-Roe era. The Texas Supreme Court Friday night temporarily blocking 31-year-old Kate Cox from obtaining an emergency abortion after Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton appealed to the court, writing nothing can restore the unborn child's life that will be lost as a result. Time is of the essence. The state's highest court putting a hold on a lower court's ruling Thursday that said Cox qualified for an abortion, despite the state's near total ban.
How urgent is it for Kate Cox right now to be able to get access to an emergency abortion?
Time is of the essence. I mean, the clock is ticking. Every day that goes by, the risks to her health and life and future fertility increase.
Cox, a mother of two from Dallas, is 20 weeks pregnant. Her doctors told her last week her fetus has virtually no chance of survival because of a severe condition called trisomy 18. They warn if she continues to carry the pregnancy, her health and future fertility could be at risk.
There's no outcome here, that results in us taking home a healthy baby girl.
Cox's suit was the first known case of a woman seeking a court order for an emergency abortion since Roe v. Wade in 1973. Texas, one of 21 states enforcing restrictions on the procedure since Roe was overturned. Under Texas law, abortions are banned, except if the mother's life is at risk or if it prevents irreversible damage to a major bodily function. The state arguing Cox does not meet those criteria.
Plaintiffs have not shown that they will suffer an immediate and irreparable injury.
Elizabeth Schulze joining us now. And Elizabeth, with this mother arguing her health is in imminent jeopardy, how quickly might the Texas Supreme Court act on this?
The court has given no sense of a timeline here of whether it will allow the lower court's decision to stand, permitting Cox to have an abortion. And this is just the beginning of cases appealing directly to courts for the right to an abortion in states where it's banned. A woman who is 8 weeks pregnant in Kentucky has just filed a similar lawsuit.
Yeah, and the woman in Kentucky has asked for a class action lawsuit, meaning all pregnant women in Kentucky who wish to have an abortion should join her lawsuit. I mean, this is crazy. Is this America? What the hell country are we in? I have never seen anything so bizarre in my entire life where a woman who gets a near fatal diagnosis for her a fetus at 20 weeks, a woman who has had 2 children before, a woman who has had 2 C-sections, a woman who they say could have a uterine, her uterus will explode basically if she's forced to have another cesarean section. And the court says to her, yeah, okay, you meet the criteria. Like, first of all, why are we as people going to court to ask the court for permission to do anything at all with our uteruses, with our uteri? Why are we having to go to court to ask permission to do anything at all? Where does the pro-life part of this come in to this pro-life thing? Because I don't see it. Okay, so here we are having to go to court with a medical emergency, an emergency. And we have to ask the court to please recognize that we're having some emergency and to intervene on our behalf before we die. And the court is saying, the lower court said, yeah, okay, we will. And then you have an attorney general who, obviously, the attorney general of Texas is dirty. Obviously, this man should have been removed years ago for his securities fraud. And now he's got protection because the courts are packed with people who think just like him. And he actually sends a letter to hospitals near Houston, where where Kate is, this woman, Kate, and tells the hospitals, if you help her, what? If you help her, remember, the penalty is life in prison. Life in prison for a doctor If a doctor performs an abortion that the Texas law says is illegal, then the doctor goes to prison for life. For life. And so she couldn't get help without this court, and the court said, yes, please help her. And then Paxton sends a letter to the hospital to the doctor saying, don't you dare. What kind of a country are we living in now? Is Ken Paxton the mullah? You have to go before the mullah now, and you have to plead your case to the mullah. You know, if she pled the case that she was raped, that wouldn't do anything. In fact, she would be responsible for being raped. This is really where the country is going. You understand? This is really how autocracies work. This is really how Christian nationalism is playing out. This is really how religious tests are now being applied to people who are pregnant, to people who are gay, to people who want to read a book, to people who, I really thought this was over. I thought this story about this woman was done. I thought it was sick enough and twisted enough that she had to actually go to court with a medical emergency and present, like, who has the money? Never mind the time, okay? Who has the money? So here's the lesson, okay? And this is another thing, and I keep telling you, Jessica was here, for the holidays, right? And now she's gone about her business to, have Christmas with a non-Jew. You know what I mean? So this is anyway, she's got, and I have to, explain to her, and she gets it. I mean, she's a grown woman, that she cannot be pregnant in Florida. She can't be pregnant in Texas. She can't be pregnant in Kentucky, because God help her if there's an emergency at 20 weeks or an emergency at 24 weeks or some sort of an amniocentesis or an ultrasound that shows that this child, if it's brought into the world, would suffer and die in pain. And she has no choice here or in Texas or in Kentucky or in any, you understand that this woman is now leaving the state of Texas, okay? She still wants her case to go forward. She still does. God love her. I mean, she is brave and she is tough, but she's been in bed for the last 3 days. She's already been to the hospital with this pregnancy like 2 or 3 times, and it's not viable. And what she would sacrifice is a person would be born and the person would have to die in writhing agony, number one. Number two, she's forfeiting her fertility. She wanted to have a big family. She's got 2 kids. She wants to continue to add to her family. That's her own damn business. If obviously they're in a position where they can afford to do it, because here she is with lawyers. I mean, so before you get pregnant now in this country, you have to have millions of dollars for legal fees or hundreds of thousands of dollars for legal fees? This is the issue that Americans don't want to deal with. They want to deal with stuff over there. No, deal with what's going on over here, because what's happening over here is exactly opposite world of what you think you have here. And in a 1-page order, the Texas Supreme Court actually said that it was going to prevent her from going to have the abortion, quote, without regard to the merits of her case. Without regard. They just put a stay on it. And when time is of the essence, and usually in a medical emergency it is, how do you disregard the merits? How do you say, okay, so the bodily function that she's sacrificing at the altar of religious zealotry is her fertility going forward? She has to risk losing her uterus to please Ken Paxton and his ilk in a free country? So now she says she's leaving the state. Well, you know that they're urging people to use that vigilante law that Texas has, that if anybody helps her, including her husband, if anybody helps her leave the state for the purpose of terminating this unviable pregnancy, they'll get 10 grand.
And I rescued in Austin and Corpus Christi and was arrested 37 times. Now, isn't it an irony that today I stand before you as one who could very well win the Texas Supreme Court.
So a man who likes to harass women at the lowest point in their lives, the worst day of their lives, is now a Texas Supreme Court justice and brags about it. And we tell ourselves, there's no litmus test. There should not be a litmus test. We should never even ask the Roe question to a potential jurist. Are you freaking kidding me? The idea that this was once America, a place where you were free to make choices about your family, you were free to make choices about your health, you were free to make choices about contraception, you were free to decide with whom and when you were going to start a family, has now been replaced by some religious ideology that is very unfamiliar to most Americans, because most of us are not fundamentalist Christian nationalists. We're not Opus Dei Catholics. This is insanity that we're letting this creep in to the, and of course, if it's only happening to women, well, it's not me. I'm a man. I'm still, autonomous. I still get to make decisions. You think so? Do you? Do you think that you still get to make decisions? Like if you impregnate somebody because, you had 4 tequilas? You think that there's a decision left to be made by you? No. It's going to be made by John Devine. It's going to be made by, some sicko court. I just, for me, the idea that you could be facing not just a wanted pregnancy going so badly, going so wrong that it's a fatal diagnosis for the fetus, and it's likely a fatal diagnosis for you if you are forced to take this pregnancy to full term. And so there's no outcome for you that has anything to do with your family. It has to do with Paxton and with Abbott and with a bunch of evangelicals in this country who have decided for you that you could die. We don't need you. Or that there's no chance for you to come home with a healthy baby. So, too bad for you. We feel terrible, but, you're going to have to take it to term anyway. What kind of a place is this that says that to anybody? Who is making this, the law? And why? There are no exceptions. They're trying to explain. Ken Paxton is violating court orders now in open, in everybody's, view. Everybody can see it. It's out in the public. He sent a letter to hospitals saying that their doctors would be prosecuted if they helped this woman, even though a court said, help this woman. She meets the criteria under your law. Okay, she is facing the law says if you're threatened with losing, believe it or not, I can't believe you even have to prove this. I can't believe that we even have to say this. I can't believe that women have to go to court and acknowledge to a court, not to their, it's not, I will lose my bodily function of X, okay? I will lose my bodily function. And in her case, it's fertility. I will lose my ability for my uterus to, be present. I will lose my ability to have more children, which is my desire, is my hope. And the court's like, oh, well, too bad for you. But that's what the exception says. Yeah, well, too bad for you. We don't interpret it that way. What do you mean you don't interpret it that way? No, we meant a bodily function like, I don't know, you would lose your bladder. But I'm losing my uterus. Well, we don't care about that. There are no exceptions. You understand this? And this is what they're showing you here in the state of Texas, a place that values life so much that they put razor wire in the Rio Grande so that they can shred people unless, so that they can never get to, the shore. This is the pro-life group. This is who they are. This is what they are. This is what they want. This is what they... I just, for the life of me, I cannot believe that, people are not going to vote against this. So like this whole idea of Donald Trump and the dictatorship and all this stuff and everything else. Can't you see it already? Can't you feel it? Can't you know it? Can't you see that it's not just, this poor woman? This is the entirety of half of the population of the United States, that our girls can't be pregnant in states that we live in? Isn't that enough to rattle you? I don't know what else to say. I don't know how else to make the case. Okay, the phone is working. So, it's obviously me. I just cannot believe that this is the way the country is going to end. I just cannot believe that people are willing to do this, that people are just so full of grievance, that people really are so full of distrust and mistrust and hate and just jealousy and grievances and wanting to rule over people in such a way that they would actually look at cases like this woman who wanted this pregnancy and wants another one and say, too bad for you. Too bad for you. Ken Paxton says, no, you can't have an abortion, and so you can't. Ken Paxton, a criminal. It's like Donald Trump. He's also, he's been indicted to 91, different ways, 91 different times, in 4 different jurisdictions. Oh, now the Supreme Court has to get involved in Donald Trump's case too. You know what's going on here, right? So the March 4th D.C. case, Judge Chutkan, the case about whether or not the president was rooting for or inciting or participated in or gave aid and comfort to insurrectionists. Okay. So she said, the president of the United States, former, said that he can do whatever he wants when he's president of the United States, including incite violence, including give aid and comfort to insurrectionists, including saying, let's march up to the Capitol and I'll be there with you. And letting, making people say, this is not a time for weakness. You have to be strong. You have to take it back. Right? He's saying that he was entitled to do that under presidential immunity. Presidential immunity. Judge Chutkan said, no, you are not immune when you break the law. There's a crime fraud exception. You do not enjoy presidential immunity, especially now that you're not president, for anything you did when you were president that violated the law. Okay. So Donald Trump appealed it. It should go to the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, but that would just be delaying the March 4th start. It wouldn't let the trial start March 4th. So now Jack Smith went straight to the Supremes for a decision.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
All right, everybody. This is the last week for the Free Speech TV Winter Pledge Drive. And I need you to know that as the year comes to a close, it is time for you to make your tax-deductible year-end gift to support Free Speech TV. So today we want to reflect on what Free Speech TV is to viewers like you all across the country. It is independent media. It is a place where all opinions get aired. It is a place where trolls are not tolerated if they're going to spew rotten lies or disinformation or misinformation. You have hosts that are going to call them out, that are going to, embarrass them, that are going to humiliate them, because this is a place where the right wing of the propaganda-style mouthpieces don't stand a chance. The phones are open, they can call in, but they don't stand a chance against somebody who is free to say that is not a fact. It is not true. And so whether you make a small gift or a large one today, just know that you and your commitment is what matters most to keep us alive and kicking. We've been doing this for 25 years. We hope that we can hand this off to a new generation for another 25. That is my fervent desire and wish as, a Free Speech TV host, is that, we will be able to bring people up behind us and hand off to them so that they can keep independent media and the democratic ideal alive, because we're losing it. We're losing it slowly. It's like the most amazing thing I've ever witnessed in my entire life. So please feel free to make a donation right now at 877-378-8669. That is the direct number for Free Speech TV in Denver, which is where they're located. So please do call them at 877-378-8669. You could use the QR code on the screen right there. You see it. Or you can use your phone to text. Text to 44321, the letters FSTV, and we'll send you a secure link. And you can make a recurring or a one-time donation, up to you. But remember, whatever you do is tax deductible, and it is the end of the year, and so maybe you need some catch-up. That would be good. And, of course, you can reach us at freespeech.org. Okay. Linda in New Mexico.
Hi,
hey.
Randy. This is my first time. We've been listening to you for a while now. I don't know why the girl from Texas doesn't just come over here to New Mexico right next door, because our governor allows abortions up to birth.
Because in Texas, there's a vigilante law that says that if you help, aid, and abet any woman who is pregnant in Texas to go out of state or to somehow get an abortion, then you can actually get paid $10,000 for any information that leads to her arrest.
So this country has just gone
it's gone
to,
mad.
You know, where.
It's gone dingbat mad. So the idea that she can just get up and leave is not possible. But she is doing it. She is leaving.
What's the home of the brave and the land of the free mean anymore?
Nothing.
Nothing.
No.
Well, we agree with you. My husband and I, we live here in Roswell, and we agree with you. We're in our 70s. We agree with everything you say. So keep up the good work, Randy. But I didn't know that you just, why does she have to tell somebody she's coming over here to New Mexico? Just come over.
Well, she's going to try to leave on her own. But, anybody that wants 10 grand knows what she looks like. I mean, she's been on Texas television. She's been on national television.
I know.
Somebody could actually, the idea that that's possible in the United States. How is that okay? Or how is that something that people aren't so seriously outraged that they're willing to do, some sort of a thing that like they're doing for, Hamas. I don't even understand it.
I don't either. And in 73, when Roe versus Wade came, I was 23 and I did have an abortion. I was able to.
Yeah.
It wasn't the most fun thing when they first started out. They wouldn't even give me a Valium, but other than that, I fainted, but I still had it.
Yeah.
But it's horrible, and I've asked forgiveness and everything, but it's still horrible that it's turned around, and you know why it's turned around in the Supreme Court because of I think Barack should have been a little bit more forceful with Mitch McConnell and put who he wanted in there. The whole country has gone crazy, and Roswell is pretty Republican here.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think it is, but it is.
Yeah.
It's a pretty Republican city, although we get a lot of, the UFO thing and all that.
Yeah.
But it was nice talking to you, and I noticed that nobody else was, so I decided to.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Linda.
And God bless you and your partner and everybody else.
Thank you. You too. Estelle in California.
Yeah, hi there.
Hi.
I was just wondering, because I know you were talking about your disappointment with the left, and there is a transgender woman who is running against Nancy Pelosi. Everyone calls her the AOC of the West Coast, but she doesn't seem to be getting the kind of traction that somebody like that should be doing, especially since it seems like every time a transgender person picks their nose, it's all over the TV or something like that. And,
I think Danica Rome got elected. She's transgender. I think we got a bunch of people that got elected. But Nancy,
she's running.
Why would you?
She's running against Nancy.
Yeah, but why would you run against Nancy if Nancy's not ready to retire? Nancy has done more for this country than any other person. That's just a fact.
She couldn't codify Roe v. Wade. She's had 40 years.
Well, she doesn't have the votes to codify Roe v. Wade. And who?
Well,
and who
you can still call out the people like Henry Cuellar.
The idea that because Roe v. Wade didn't get codified into law because we have a Senate that requires 60 votes to do so means that suddenly Nancy Pelosi is to blame for that, and that she should just be run against, and that you should just vote for somebody simply because of their sexual orientation. That's crazy. That's
well,
as
I think she's running
discriminatory.
against her for different reasons.
But what you said is just as discriminatory as anything I've heard all day or anything that I will hear all day. That's just bizarre that's your criteria for voting for somebody. I mean, that would be as ugly as if you said...
Roe v. Wade?
No, because you said she's transgender, and anytime somebody transgender picks their nose, they get media coverage, and this person isn't getting media coverage because she's transgendered. I mean, you make so many assumptions there.
Maybe I do, and maybe that's a personal hang-up of mine, but it seems like she's talking, the good points for the progressive causes.
Oh, yeah? So
like
tell me, Estelle, how do we codify...
Medicare for all?
So tell me how we'd get any of that done when you have a majority of the House is in the Republicans' hands, and you need 60 votes in the Senate to do anything, and America sits home. Only about 40% of America ever votes. And you're blaming Nancy Pelosi. I don't get it.
Well, I'm telling. There was another thing she said at her speech that really kind of stuck to me. She said that her office called the Trump White House during the whole Kavanaugh-Barrett thing, and she asked that anybody from their side call and ask to arrange for different people to go on and off the short list. And she said that they responded no, and that they would have had that conversation had somebody done so.
What are we talking about? What are you saying? Who did what to whom?
We had this decision, right, because we have these new judges on the court.
What decision did we have? I mean, the Senate was in Mitch McConnell's.
We had Doc.
Oh, my God. Wow.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
When voters are asked to not just respond to a survey, but to cast a ballot, they have done so in ways that match up with some of the president's priorities. We saw it in November in Virginia with the state legislature. We saw it in Ohio with respect to abortion. On abortion, the new reporting is that the campaign will more aggressively tie Donald Trump to every instance in America where there is a restriction, a ban on abortion, when there is abortion in the news. You were talking with Senator Romney about the Texas case. To say Ken Paxton, the state attorney general there, was endorsed by Donald Trump. And so they want to link Trump in every way to the change in people's lives with respect to abortion. And to then say that is the kind of position you would have when Donald Trump talks about day one, being an authoritarian, a dictator. They're saying day by day he's becoming more autocratic. And so if they look at something practical like abortion, that's a way to get at it. Democracy might be more theoretical for many Americans. And so abortion is a way where they can link him to that day by day.
I mean, that's just a straight reporter telling you, what exactly the polls are showing and what exactly the situation on the ground. That's not an opinion. Okay, that is just a fact reporter, Kelly O'Donnell. So she's telling you that even though today there is a poll, okay, a serious poll, that shows that Donald Trump is beating Joe Biden 47-43, which ought to send shivers down every woman's spine right now. And all the men that love the women in this country ought to be shaking in their shoes. People who aren't evangelical Christians or Opus Dei type Catholics just know contraception is right on the heels of it. There will be camps in this country should Donald Trump become the president of the United States. And there is a faction, a part of this country that hopes that that is true because they don't think they'll be at the camp. Okay. They think other people will be at the camp. You know what's so fascinating about thinking other people will be at the camp is if you look in the mirror, you might actually figure out that you fit the mold of the person in the camp. And the camp might not just be for the person you hoped it was for. But we're in deep crap here. And so what Kelly O'Donnell there is saying is that the abortion thing, when he says he wants to be a dictator for a day, can't you already see that without him, we're going down that authoritarian road? Where without him, you got Ken Paxton, who is a disgraced, disgusting securities fraudster, who happens to be the attorney general in the state of Texas with a very friendly right-wing uber, a judgy Supreme Court that doesn't want to interpret the law. They want to dictate your life. And he's not a doctor. And neither is anybody on the Texas State Supreme Court. None of them have medical degrees. And if you have to die at the altar of their religious beliefs, then so be it. Who gives a damn about you? No abortion yet. And so what she's telling you is that when people are asked in a poll, it's kind of hypothetical. But when people actually go to vote, like we saw them do in Virginia, like we saw them do in Ohio, like we saw them do in freaking Kansas, for God's sake. You talk about a red state. Okay, and they all said, oh no, oh hell no, you're not taking away my bodily autonomy. You're not taking away my ability to consult a physician about whether or not my human being body can actually carry this pregnancy to term safely and successfully versus your interpretation of some 5,000-year-old book that I think is a novel. It's unbelievable to me. There is no freedom left in this country. There's the only freedom that there seems to be is freedom to harass people, freedom to bully people, freedom to intimidate people, freedom to get in people's faces, freedom to hate, freedom to bully, freedom to do violence on the United States Capitol and have a president that says, I will pardon you. I think you're a true patriot because when you were doing violence, you were doing it for me. And if you do violence for me, why, that's patriotic. Violence for anybody is patriotic. It is not patriotic to do violence on the homeland, okay? It's not patriotic to do violence to Congress members or to the building, okay? I mean, this is so insane. And to root for camps, to root for roundups of human beings. I don't know. I don't know what. So when you look at the polls, they're trying to tell me not to get excited about the polls because they were wrong before, and they were, and they'll be wrong again, maybe. And that, the idea that freedom is being incrementally taken away is going to win the day at the ballot box. Because we can't talk about democracy being on the ballot because that's just too ethereal, or that's too hypothetical, or that's too esoteric. I mean, what is it? People just don't believe it can happen here. How could you not believe it can happen here? Okay? This is exactly what this man is saying.
I will implement strong ideological screening of all immigrants. If you hate America, if you want to abolish Israel, if you don't like our religion, which a lot of them don't, if you sympathize with jihadists, then we don't want you in our country and you are not getting in, right?
I mean, he just said this weekend. He's going to pick a national religion. And if you don't agree with it, I mean, I guess there's a carve out in his mind for Jews. I don't know what he's saying there, but it sounded to me like he was saying, if you don't like our religion, except we'll carve out a little space for the Jews because, Jared. What? I swear. But he's saying, listen, you see all these protests now that people are, protesting the war in the Middle East, and everybody's chosen a side, which to me is just, hysterical, considering that if I asked, I'll say 99 out of 100 people that were protesting with a Palestinian flag, what exactly, they're protesting for to have happen, they would tell me that they were protesting for genocide because they need for the state of Israel to just not exist. And so all the Jews must die or go. So it's interesting. But that said, he's saying that you don't get to protest. He's saying, I don't get to argue with you. No, none of that will be tolerated. None of that will be, allowed. That you will go to camps. You will go to camps. You don't get to argue with me and I don't get to argue with you. You either subscribe to the national religion, to be announced, TBA. I don't know what it will be. because it seems like it'll be, you know, like evangelical Christianity with a carve out for Jews. I think evangelical Christianity thinks that the Jews killed Jesus. So I don't know how that would work. I'm not really sure. I got a funny feeling it's not that big of a sentiment for him to be worried about. I think that he's much more talking about a Muslim ban there. I think he's talking about, you know, any protest that is, you know, anti whatever he thinks should happen, that it will then become illegal. And he's talking about how he would enforce it.
If I say he's brilliant, the next day article, he called President Xi a brilliant person. Yeah. He controls 1.4 billion people with an iron fist. They want me to say he's just of average intelligence. Okay? But the look, the whole thing, he stands in front of 1 million soldiers, they walk by, and they want me to say bad things. Can't say bad things.
The look. He likes the look of it because he has military parades, Xi does, you know, while he actually is taking Uyghurs who are Muslim Chinese to camps, re-education camps. I mean, a million Uyghurs have been taken to concentration camps in China, and he won't say anything bad about that because the military adores, you know, when the autocrat marches in front of the military, the look of it is so appealing to him that he drools over it and will do anything to have that happen to him. Remember when he said we needed to have, you know, the French have Bastille Day, or you know, they have the French Independence Day parade and they have the military out there, and Macron was out. He wanted that to happen here. He wanted a military parade to happen here to celebrate him. And the joke of it all, the irony, on Independence Day, when everybody proclaimed their freedom to do whatever they wanted about their religious life, to do something, to do nothing, to do a little bit, to do a lot, whatever. I mean, how is it possible that we have a country where showing people that the man who wants to be president has already done violence against our democracy, has already done physical violence against the peaceful transfer of power in this country, is dangerous.
Mary had a little man.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
For the weekend, Donald Trump once again said he wants to be a dictator, but only on his first day in office.
You know why I wanted to be a dictator? Because I want a wall, right? I want a wall, and I want to drill, drill, drill.
Some of Trump's Republican supporters have dismissed the comments as a joke, but Trump went on to promise to use the power of the presidency to go after his political opponents, including threatening prosecution, saying it is justified because he now faces multiple indictments.
They've opened up a Pandora's box, and I only can say to Joe is, be very careful what you wish for.
As Trump allies outline specific plans for retribution in a second Trump term, one Trump ally recently saying journalists will be targeted too, the Trump campaign has pushed back, saying no proposal should be considered official unless it comes directly from Trump or his campaign. As Trump builds his campaign around calls for retribution and revenge, former Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney is calling him a threat to American democracy who must be stopped.
There's a lot that has to be done to begin to rebuild the Republican Party, potentially to build a new conservative party. But in my view, that has to wait until after the 2024 election because our focus has got to be on defeating Donald Trump.
I mean, the guy is standing there on a stage in New York, okay, of all places, in a tuxedo, telling you that he wants retribution, that he wants Joe Biden to be locked up based on nothing. Based on no evidence, based on no case, based on no accusation, no indictment, no insurrection, no tax cheating, no insurance fraud, nothing. the closest they can get to Joe Biden is that Hunter Biden has had a fairly tawdry life. And they're not going to be happy until Hunter Biden either relapses or dies so that Joe Biden will lose his will to live. I mean, this is some sick crap, okay? It really is. But there he was on a stage in New York praising every dictator yet again, saying how he admires President Xi. You know, the economy in China is, kind of in it's in the dumpster. It's in a trash heap. People are not doing well in China. China's economy did not bounce back after COVID. Guess whose did? We did. Yeah, different type of governance. But he's admiring, a man who literally crashed the Chinese economy, admiring a guy who let a virus get out of control, admiring a guy because he has military parades where he gets the military to salute him. And Donald Trump wants that too. He wants that too. So he stands in New York and he goes, you know why I wanted to be a dictator? I'll tell you why. Because I wanted to build a wall. That's why. I want to build a wall and I want to drill, baby. America is out drilling. America is out producing every other nation on the planet in energy production. You know that, right? I hope you know that. Because that is such garbage stuff. It's garbage in, garbage out. I mean, if you start with a premise that's false, meaning that America is not energy independent, meaning that America isn't outperforming and outproducing every other nation, meaning that America isn't a exporter of energy, then you're going to get a policy that actually thinks that was true and acts on that false thing and is going to get a garbage result on the output, right? But anyway, the idea that this man is going to have people like me, I mean, I don't think I'm that, on the radar screen, but that he will literally shut down media outlets. He will shut down entire companies unless they start praising him. It's interesting because, this is what Vlad does. This is what she does. They have state-run media in, they have state-run media in Russia. They have state-run media in China, okay? Any place where there's an autocrat, there is state-run media. When you watch media that comes out of Lebanon or, I don't know Lebanon so much. It used to be. It's state-run media. And he is telling you that the media is your enemy, and so whatever he does to it, that would be good for you. If he killed media, it would be killing your enemy, and therefore you should root for him doing it. And he is literally standing there saying that he's going to get journalists. He's naming them now. He's going to get, politicians. He's naming them. Joe Biden better, be careful what he wishes for. He's not wishing for anything with regard to you, except that he knows that he has to run against you in a election. That's it. He's not doing anything else to you. I mean, and then he goes on this little riff here where, do you remember the movie A Fish Called Wanda? Do you remember it? You remember Kevin Kline's character? Do you remember the movie Fish Called Wanda?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember Kevin Kline's character? Don't call me stupid. Remember him?
I forgot that movie until you just brought it up. That's a great movie. Yes, I do.
Amazing movie. Okay.
They used to call me JD. They said maybe stupid. So I said to Doc Ronnie, Doc Ronnie is now a great congressman in Texas. Great, very popular guy. I think he won by 52 points or something. But he's now a great congressman. I said, Ronnie, I don't like when people call me stupid. I had great heritage, an uncle who was a great, great genius, a father who was a genius. Everybody, we have a lot of geniuses. I don't like being called stupid. Is there a test or something I can take to prove to these radical left maniacs that I'm much smarter than them? Is there a test? And he said, sir, there is a test. It's called the X test. I said, what's it like? He said, well, it gets very tough. The first questions are easy. And the middle of the test gets tough, and the end of the test is quite tough.
He's still talking about this, okay?
You know what else reminds me
Don't
of?
call me stupid!
Did you remember Johnny Dangerously with Michael Keaton and Mary Lou Henner. My mother called me stupid once.
Once.
That's.
I mean, it's so obvious that this man is so insecure. He is at his core a nothing burger, a marshmallow, a person who literally lived in fear of his father, a person who never thought that he could live up to what his dad accomplished. And the truth is, he can't. He can't. The man cannot win without cheating. That is why he lost 3 times, 3 elections in a row. Midterm election. Presidential election, another midterm election. He is a loser, a 3-time loser, and he knows it. So all he keeps talking about is, how brilliant he is and what a genius family he comes from. And he'll take, remember the man, camera, woman stop sign thing? He's doing it repeatedly. And I don't know how this crowd stands there and tolerates it. I don't know who I feel worse for, Donald Trump, who is a mess of a human being and knows it, or the people that stand there and listen to these same old stories like Grandpa tells, at Easter, while he hides the eggs. I mean, I don't. Okay, so I'm a Jew, so they hide the matzah. And you don't really want to know where Grandpa hides that matzah. You really, really do not want to know that. But what is he doing? And what are the people that go to these rallies? What are they doing? How do you tolerate the same bullcrap stories over, sir? Same bullcrap stories. There is a test you could, and the test gets really hard, and man, camera, woman. I don't know who I feel worse for. I do have an extraordinary concern for this country, however, because we could not survive one day of him. We will never get rid of him if he gets in for even one day. We will never rid ourselves of him. The Trumpism, it's starting to, fade away somewhat, except for this culty crowd that shows up for these rallies. But if he comes back, I mean, it'll be a variant the likes of which you never saw.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Donald Trump indicted for illegally trying to stay in power after the 2020 election, joking again about saying he wanted to be a dictator for a day.
And you know why I wanted to be a dictator? Because I want a wall, right? I want a wall, and I want to drill.
Trump campaigning at a New York fundraiser Saturday night, saying he hopes to exact revenge on Democrats he thinks wronged him.
I only can say to Joe is, be very careful what you wish for.
Oh, my God.
Because what you've done is a terrible thing.
President Biden this weekend campaigning behind closed doors in Los Angeles, telling donors, quote, the greatest threat Trump poses is to the democracy. Biden's son this week facing new tax charges that could end up being a headache for his father's campaign if court dates coincide with the election. Hunter Biden's attorney saying it's all overblown and he paid his taxes back. According to a new Wall Street Journal poll, Trump leads Biden 47-43 in a hypothetical matchup.
God.
And late today, Trump abruptly canceled his plans to testify in his own defense in that civil fraud trial about his business assets. He said on social media he has nothing more to say. He said he stands behind the expert witnesses that his team has brought. And Lindsay, he said once again he thinks the case against him is bias.
It's not bias. It's not biased. It's actually a case, and both sides will make it. And it was his turn today to be a defense witness for himself. He was supposed to go to the stand today, and he decided, I'm not going to do that, because if I do that, then if I lie, I'll be charged with perjury. And I don't know how to tell the truth, so therefore I just won't even go defend myself. It's unbelievable. All right. So the idea here is that democracy, every single person who is in a position to get a microphone, get a camera, get anything to focus on them for a few minutes is telling you the same damn thing. Whether it's Liz Cheney on that side of the fence or it's Joe Biden over here, Everybody is telling you what is at stake here. It's like this woman, this poor woman, Kay Cox in Texas. What is at stake here is her ability to go on, her ability to create the life she wants for herself. It's being challenged by the state. It's being challenged by the government. They're dictating, to her what she is entitled to expect in her life for her family. And that's what's at stake here. Okay? It's freedom itself. But they're saying to us that the idea that we can't, it's too nebulous. It's too ethereal. It's too, unimaginable that democracy would stop if Donald Trump became president, even though he keeps telling you it will stop. Even though he keeps showing you it will stop. Even though he keeps breaking the law and delaying, his day in court, right? So now we have the situation where obviously, he is responsible for what happened on January 6th. We know that. Grand juries know that. Prosecutors across this country know that. They know that in Georgia. They know that in Pennsylvania. They know that in New York. They know that in D.C. They know that in, Arizona. They know that. I mean, these fake electors, they're getting arrested. 2,000 people were arrested. Some of them will be in jail for like 10, 20 years, some of them, okay? And now all of a sudden his day is coming. So instead of, saying, I'll just tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God, because what I was doing was protecting America. I was protecting Americans. I was protecting voters. He has absolutely no evidence to show any of that was true. And all that the evidence shows is that he was protecting himself and his power with violence. And so this dictator thing rings pretty true. But that's not going to cut it. That's not going to do it. So you know what we need to do? You know what, everybody? We need to have a constitutional amendment on every single state ballot. Every single last one that has to do with abortion. You see what I mean? You cannot convince Americans that democracy is literally being threatened by an obese man who wears extra long ties to try and hide himself as being obese, hires doctors who will lie about his weight and his height. I mean, that's how vain this man is. That's how delusional he is. But you can't convince ordinary Americans, like in Iowa, you can't convince them that he is a threat to their very way of life. You can't convince them that the awesome powers that you enjoy as a citizen, the awesome ability to move from Iowa to any state you wish at any time. This poor girl can't even leave Texas because she's pregnant and there's a bounty on her. You can't convince people that the freedom that they have right now is freedom. They think that somehow he will make them more free through making me less free. I got news for you. That never freaking works. You don't have freedom anywhere unless you have freedom everywhere. See, that's the philosophy of America. But there are people in this country that think that I shouldn't be free to say what I'm saying right now, and that shutting me up will make them more free. And that is bullcrap and scary that people even entertain these crazy ideas. They think that because Donald Trump is a criminal, that, they'll say, well, all presidents are criminal. Because Donald Trump is a liar, they'll say, well, all presidents are liars. Because Donald Trump is a fraud, they'll say everybody from FDR on out was a fraud. Listen, you may have presidents who broke the law, like, Richard Nixon comes screaming to mind, and then had the audacity to tape record his orders to break the law, okay? And had the nerve to tell you that when the president does it, that means it's not illegal, and he got pardoned. That was a huge mistake in our democratic lives. That was a huge error of judgment that Gerald Ford made. He thought he was preserving the United States. He thought what he was doing was going to defend us from each other. That's the difference between Donald Trump and all other presidents, whether you think that they lie, whether you think that they cheat, whether you think that they somehow did violence to somebody somewhere in this world. The reason why other presidents did what they did, with the exception of Richard Nixon, that we know about, they thought what they were doing was to protect the United States. They may have been dead wrong, but that's why they did what they did, with the exception of Richard Nixon, who only did it because he wanted to stay in power. But Donald Trump isn't doing anything lawless because he thinks it's in the best interest of this country. Donald Trump is doing what Donald Trump is doing in a lawless manner and threatening to be even more lawless and to get revenge against people who are making him answer at the bar of justice for his lawlessness in order to protect democracy itself and the rule of law itself. When he stands there and says he's going to take revenge based on nothing, that's a threat.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
All right, everybody. We are right in the middle of the Free Speech TV Winter Pledge Drive, and it is the year-end pledge drive. All of the donations that you make are tax deductible because we are a 501c3. We are a not-for-profit organization. So it is time now for you to step up to the plate and make your tax deductible donation to support Free Speech TV, which is independent media that has just been, I don't know how, but we keep on going for 25 years, okay? So call and donate now, 866-378-8669. 877-378-8669, or visit us at freespeech.org, or use the QR code that's right there on the bottom of your screen right there. See it? Right there, right there. And that will take you to freespeech.org, and you will get a secure way to make a donation that way. And if you want to just text, which is the easiest thing in the world, just do 44321 and then put in the letters FSTV, and we'll send you a secure link. And you can, do your one time, you can do a recurring, whatever is comfortable for you, of course, So whether you can make it small, whether you could do big, you and your commitment is really what matters, because the more of us that there are, the stronger we are. So thank you so much for your support. Hello, Jim in Pennsylvania.
Hi, Randi.
Hi.
Thank you for speaking truth. I appreciate it. I have something that maybe you can help with. There is an archive, I bet, of a video when Trump first came back from North Korea. It was a simple interview he made. They asked him, how did your trip go? And he said, when Kim Jong-un was talking in front of all the people that were sitting there, they were listening and they didn't move. And that's what I want for my people.
Right.
And that is when I first heard him be a dictator. And that goes back to that trip.
He's always, He's always wanted to be the I alone can fix it guy. Just saying that should have been enough, but it isn't enough because Americans take for granted, so for granted, the fact that we are a democracy, the fact that we are freer than anybody else, the fact that, the only thing that's off base or off limits is denigrating somebody, with lies on purpose to destroy their career, right? Everything else you can do. Everything else you can be for or against. Everything else you can, have an opinion, not have an opinion. Everything else, you get to decide and choose for your family, for your livelihood, for your, where do you want to live? How long do you want to live there? Where do you want to work? What kind of work do you want to do? Do you want an education? Do you not want an education? It's all up to you. And people just take that for granted. And that's
Randi,
that's the failure.
My wife came from Ukraine, and she made a comment to me when this first came out with Trump about the freedoms we have. She said, we haven't fought for it in years, really fought for it like they're doing in my country. And if that happened, there'd be a real fight for freedom. So we never fought. These generations didn't fight for it. I'm 71, and I remember Vietnam, and I had a draft number of 25.
Ooh.
And we misguided that fight for freedom. But after that, there's really been only Afghan, and nobody I know thinks that was a fight for freedom.
No,
that was against terrorists.
I was going to say that was not a fight for freedom. That was a fight against somebody who attacked us. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. But no, we haven't had a fight for freedom. And, Americans are so dumb that they think that the fight for freedom is a fight that has to happen between Americans. That's not the fight that you want to have or encourage or think about. And a lot of Americans want that fight. And that's the sick and sad part about it. When you fight for your own freedom, you're usually fighting against an aggressor, somebody from the outside trying to take it from you. But here you have it coming, the threat is coming from within.
Yes, and that's, I think, the worst of all.
That's
because
what I'm
that
saying.
happened in history.
Your wife doesn't understand that, America doesn't have to fight, Canada. America doesn't, right. And America doesn't have to fight Mexico. And America doesn't have to fight, Costa Rica. But she has to fight, her country has to go to war against Russia because Russia is an aggressor. And for no reason at all, they just want to take their land. However, whenever there is a democracy, America will show up for you. But now we have a bunch of people in this country who won't show up for themselves.
No.
That's the.
I just want you to continue the good fight. I've been watching you every day, and the people that are down on you and give you some grief, you're doing the just thing, the right thing, and I'm glad you're standing tall through it. I really have. You have a big heart in this, and I just hope you can proceed with it and not make it tear you down,
I know. I hear you. I feel it. I feel it every day. Like, today I really thought that this might be our last week. I'm like, there's so much going on in my life that I don't even bother to share it with you anymore. But
no.
Yeah, but it's just, it's horrible. It's horrible what's going on. And the idea that, people don't want to participate in our self-governance experiment means it can't win, and I listen to other people and they're just bitching and moaning about what's going on over there and that's wrong over there and I don't think people realize that no matter what the price, America shows up for democracy. That's just who we've been, and that's all going away. It's going away with disgruntled people on both sides now, and it's very, very upsetting to listen to and to watch and to be part of. I don't think that people can understand that, when you stop fighting for democracy, you lose your identity. You lose who you are and your purpose for being.
It's pretty sad.
It's ridiculous.
I feel it everywhere.
I do too. Yeah. I see it everywhere. I feel it everywhere. I hear it everywhere. I hear it from, listen, trolls are trolls. And you put them in that compartment, right? Of guy, somebody that's just trying to get your dander up or somebody that's trying to, have fun for themselves by, going toe to toe with you. Fine. Okay, great. But when you hear it from people who are smarter than this, from people who are supposed to be caring about what they're saying, having an effect on other people or hoping it does. And then what they're saying is bitching and moaning and complaining about their own country over and over to the point where certain segments of the population are going to experience hatred and violence. And you think you're a pacifist or you think you're a peacenik or you think you're, and really what you're doing is inviting violence against entire populations of this country because you don't want to fight for democracy over there. Or you do, but not that much. It's going on with the people who don't want to support Ukraine. And it's going on with the people that don't think that Israel is, worth saving. Now, I get that Netanyahu is a Donald Trump. He is. It's unfortunate for Israel that they have a leader like him. He needs to resign in shame, admit that, he has no clue how to keep that place safe or decent, and just call it a day. But he won't. He won't. And what you see over there is what you're inviting over here. A person who is so out of control that the entire world wants to make you stop doing what you're doing and causing the grief that you're causing for your own citizens, for your own people, but he won't because it's how he stays in power, in control.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Today we concluded the 10th week of our trial against Donald Trump, the Trump Organization, and other defendants. Over the past few days, we continued to hear testimony from the defendants' many expert witnesses. And one of these experts admitted that the valuations of some of the properties on Donald Trump's statement of financial condition were neither proper nor reasonable. Another one of their experts is a member of Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump's private club that he continues to claim is solely a residence. In fact, this witness testified that he was at Mar-a-Lago when he ran into Donald Trump, who asked him for help with an issue in New York. That issue was our lawsuit. We also heard from an accounting professor whose fees are paid by Save America, Donald Trump's political action committee. He testified that the value of Donald Trump's triplex was inflated. On that, we can agree. But he also had a lot to say about Donald Trump's statements of financial condition, even though he has not prepared a financial statement since the 1980s.
Oh, God.
Donald Trump can continue to try to distract from reality. He can continue to call me names. But as the judge said today, the standard is truth. And the truth is on our side.
So that's Letitia James, who obviously has already won her case. And I don't mean in the media. I mean, she actually literally won her case. This is what people, you know, when they write me, they go, oh, I don't know, Donald Trump paid $900. Well, you leave out the part that the people that testified for him as experts were paid. And one of them got almost $1 million. $900,000 to testify, even though on cross-examination the man folded like a cheap tent and had to admit that he hadn't prepared any financial statements of financial condition since the 1980s. That would be like 30 years ago, okay? No, it's more. It's 40 years ago now. Holy crap. But yeah, so she's all, and people are writing me, and saying, but Randi, did you see the testimony? Or no, nobody saw the testimony. But you heard that the guy said, yes, I heard that the guy said that what he did was totally okay, and that valuations are a art, not a science. You know, they say that about medicine too, but if a guy sticks a knife in the wrong part of your body and takes out a wrong organ, you're going to have a nice case against him. So I have to keep reminding people that write to me, go, I don't know, I don't think he's going to get. First of all, this is a civil case, meaning this is about money damages. That is what this case is about. And number two, it's a bench trial, meaning the only audience for any of this is the judge. There's no jury. And that's because Donald Trump's team and the prosecution team both went to the judge and said, we don't need a jury. We don't want a jury trial. We want a bench trial. And the judge said, fine, if you both agree, there's nothing here to litigate. Let's do it that way. You both seem to agree on this one thing, so that's what we'll do. And the judge has already determined that Donald Trump is liable under the law for fraud. That's done. All that's happening now is the damages portion. How much did that fraud actually cost other people who try to get favorable loans and don't get them? Other people who are trying to compete against Donald Trump and can't because he's got friends inside Deutsche Bank. You see what I mean? So they're just trying to figure out now how much he has to pay. Now, you know that the top amount is $250 million. But don't forget that this was already decided as far as his, liability. And yes, the judge found that Donald Trump is liable for fraud, insurance fraud, tax fraud. Yeah, all kinds of fraud, bank fraud, defrauding, banks. And so we're going to see what it's worth. But this is not a criminal case, number one. And number two, this isn't up for a decision by a jury. And number three, it's already been decided. So try and hold that in your head, because I realize there's so many trials. Now, the next one that you need to, sit up and pay attention to, and this is what kills me. We want cameras in the courtroom. We must have them. Otherwise, none of this is happening, you see. If it wasn't on the TV, it didn't happen. This is America. And the next one for the January 6th debacle, for the attack on our Capitol, which is a criminal case, is supposed to come on March 4th. Now, Donald Trump is claiming he has immunity from anything he did when during the time that he was president of the United States. But you all know, and we all know, that there's a crime fraud exception to any privilege, husband-wife privilege, presidential privilege, attorney-client privilege. All of those privileges are pierced if you are trying to plot a criminal activity. If you were trying to steal, if you were trying to commit fraud against another, then the privilege evaporates. It goes away. So you can't say to your lawyer, help me rob a bank, or give me the case where a bank robber was successful. And then you and I will mastermind it together based on that. Can't do that. There is no attorney-client privilege to discuss law breaking, okay? That is not why there's attorney-client privilege. Attorney-client privilege is there so that somebody can talk honestly and openly to their attorney about where they might have been or what they were wearing that day. That doesn't, that is different from what a witness is saying, so that the defense attorney can defend you. That's it. So Donald Trump is claiming this, protection during a crime in which he was informed was occurring, a crime that he knew in real time was happening, and a crime for which he chose not to interfere and not to protect the United States, not to protect Congress members. And see, this is when I tell you he's a dictator, this is what I'm talking about. He picks and chooses who he will protect. That's not America, okay? But that is what Donald Trump did on January 6th. He picked who he was going to protect, and it wasn't going to be Congress members. It wasn't going to be, conservative Congress members, and it wasn't going to be Democratic Congress members. Of course not. It was going to be himself. That's who he was going to defend that day. His right to stay in power as he saw it, okay? And so if, God forbid, okay, so in Tennessee, there were tornadoes over the weekend, really bad ones, winter tornadoes. Let's say Tennessee all of a sudden decides that it wants to vote with the Justins. It wants to vote with Gloria Johnson. It wants to make Gloria Johnson a senator from Tennessee, and it wants to elevate, Justin Pearson and Justin Johnson. And they want to end, this kind of racism in Tennessee. And Donald Trump thinks that means Tennessee might be going blue. Then he doesn't help you after the tornadoes, like he didn't help Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria. This is what people are trying to tell you, that he is going to pick and choose to whose rescue he comes in natural disasters and in political choices. If he doesn't like the way you chose, let's say it's a completely red state, okay? And that red state, Idaho, for instance, has 2 Republicans vying for a Senate seat in a primary, or 2 House members in a district in a primary. And Donald Trump has picked the person he wants to win. Now, every time Donald Trump has picked the person he wants to win lately, that person is lost. But if Donald Trump was president and he picked a person he wanted to win and that person lost, even in a Republican on Republican primary, Donald Trump would punish that state, or he would punish that district. That's what people are talking about. Also, what about free markets? Conservatives are all about free markets. They're all about let the market decide. Donald Trump is going to take everything, especially money. And he's going to tell businesses exactly how much vig they have to kick back to him. And if they don't want to kick back to him, this is a man who made $640 million as president. And America seems to have problems with people who were president, then aren't president, then write a book and give speeches and make millions of dollars that way post-presidency. That seems to be irritating to a lot of Americans, but it is the way a free country works. Donald Trump made $640 million as president. His daughter got Chinese patents as a senior advisor to the president while he was president. And his son-in-law did favors for the Saudis while he was a senior advisor to the president during the time Donald Trump was president and got paid $2 billion the day he wasn't a senior advisor to the president anymore, in spite of the fact that no one thought he should have a security clearance. Okay? Donald Trump is going to want companies to pay him. Pay him. And if they don't, something bad will happen. Like the CEO will, I don't know, disappear like Navalny, or the CEO will somehow go to jail for some damn thing. And that will send a message to all the other CEOs. And Donald Trump will make money off the oligarchs.